Alright, shalom and good morning. So I'm on my way to North Tonawanda City Court again for a traffic infraction that never happened. So I wasn't even aware of a traffic infraction citation or anything like that because I've recorded when I've been pulled over. I was pulled over twice near the end of February. Once by the Batavia PD, once by the, I want to assume Batavia Sheriff's Office. Right? Or Genesee County Sheriff's, in other words. So I'm not sure, but in the first interaction with that, with the Batavia PD, I gave up my Fourth Amendment right. I gave my ID and what have you. I was never issued a citation. We had a cordial conversation like I normally have with the police. And then likewise, on the second interaction, I did assert my rights under the First Amendment, cited Penal Code 195.00, official misconduct and what have you, because it seemed like it could have gotten aggressive rather quickly. So I wanted to assert that principle out right off the bat, so that way they couldn't escalate into a crime for whatever reason. I'm not saying that that was his intent, but the claim was that I was going 57 and 40, which I may have been, because there are two signs coming into Leroy with the 40 sign. By the second sign I was going 45, so I probably didn't slow down fast enough on the first sign, by the first sign, but I was aware, right? And I did slow down. It was late at night and there was nobody around or anything like that, and hence no victim, no crime, right? So they're trying to assert dominance and a secular mentality on the church, so that's a violation of the First Amendment, as well as the Article 1, Section 3 of the New York State Constitution, which states quite clearly that I can basically do anything I want as long as it's not licentious. Licentious meaning depriving somebody else of their rights, right? So the absolute enforcement of a traffic infraction is blasphemy. That's James 2 in your Bible, right? So a lot of people don't understand that, because in modern society, everybody believes that modern Christians are Christians and Orthodox Jews are Jews, right? I don't side with either party. I stay out of the secular affairs of the secular state, because the whole principle of the government is to protect the rights of the people. That's on the state as well as the federal level. So I don't get into the bickering, petty arguments, or what have you. Abortion is murder. I'll say abortion is murder, right, because it is. But at the same time, I'm not going to go picket an abortion clinic or do anything like that, because the bottom line is the people that are typically doing that are violating the other laws of Yahweh, right? Yahweh's 10 Commandments, right? So they don't keep the weak, the least, the Sabbath, anything like that. So they're being hypocrites in process, but nevertheless, it doesn't mean that murder is right, right? But I stay out of the secular affairs which is what I can do, right? Separation of church and state, First Amendment, as well as Article 1, Section 3, right? And they have an oath of office, all public servants do, and each respective state to the United States Constitution, as well as their respective states, right, to support the constitutions. That's their primary principle, because that's the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. That's Article 6, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. And then you have the law of the land, which is the New York State Constitution in my situation, right? So in both accounts, if you go to my website and what have you, it validates that they alienated my unalienable rights, right? Because they wanted to think that they had the authority. And I told them they didn't have the authority. But they didn't want to acknowledge it, because singular mindset, you broke the traffic infraction. That is a law. That is a law. Law, breaking the law, breaking the law. Kind of mentality. It's like, look, there's still no victim, right? Nobody was injured. Nobody was harmed. Nobody's property was harmed. What right do you have to exercise authority that wasn't given to you? That's Civil Rights Code Section 2 of the New York State Civil Rights Code states quite clearly, supreme sovereignty in the people. No authority under any pretense whatsoever can be exercised over the citizens of the state without, paraphrasing, consent of the people, right? 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution states quite clearly that whatever's not on the federal level goes to the state or the people, not exclusively the state. And that's why whenever you're sued in a court of law in the states and what have you, it'll say the people of the state of New York versus, because they get their authority from the people. I am the people. So why would I allow them to sue myself? Now, if you go to the Executive Code of New York State, you can see that the state proclaims its sovereignty right? They love to call people sovereign citizens and what have you. So the state proclaims its sovereignty under the 10th, right, and 11th Amendment. So under those two amendments under the United States Constitution, nobody has the right to sue New York State without consent from the state. So why then, under the 1st and 10th Amendment, does the state have the right to sue the people without our consent? Simple logic, right? We're the people. Especially if they're suing in the name of the people, right? So if we're the people, they have to have our consent to sue us. So that should apply to any traffic infraction for anybody, because it's not only a matter of freedom of exercise under the First Amendment, it's also freedom from establishment. And what is breaking a law? It's committing a sin. You can't sin against the state. They're establishing religion, right? So that's what a lot of people don't understand. And since if you cause no injury or to person or property, the state can't be a victim, nor can society, as they write on traffic infractions, because they're violating your rights to enforce a secular mentality. And they can't favor one secular mentality over the next person's, nor the secular over church, church over secular, and what have you. So if I have that right to where they shouldn't be suing me as the church, that likewise applies to everybody else under common law, right? That would be the 9th Amendment under the United States Constitution, as well as the respective common law statute of the Bill of Rights of the New York State Constitution, right? Equal protection of the law, not general application. And since both of them are under the supreme law of the land, is the United States Constitution, in other words, as well as the law of land, the respective state constitution, they don't have that authority. Their primary job is to protect the rights of the people. So if they're using conjecture to assume some level of authority and dominance over the people, they're treating us like slaves. That's a violation of the 13th Amendment, as well as the 14th Amendment. But people not knowing this allow them to get away with extorting them. It's a racketeering scheme. Now, in my case, in this case that I'm going to right now, a phony ticket was submitted to the court for a traffic infraction that never occurred. On the 27th of November of 2023, per the Gregorian calendar, I was picking up an order at Submasters in North Tonawanda. Well, and I saw what I assumed was Lieutenant Swick sitting there, and it validates with the traffic infraction that it was him. But he was eating food. We never had any interaction whatsoever. We didn't even exchange a simple hello to each other. And I parked right next to him outside, right? And if you go to my website and what have you, you'll see clearly that the traffic infraction states for the intersection of Main and Goundry, which is where Submasters is. Ooh, big surprise. So he was getting food, he was eating, he saw me, remembering me, especially with me posting the videos and what have you on YouTube, which depicts him as being a moron. Then that basically validates that he would have some kind of hard feelings towards me, right? So with those hard feelings, and within that video, you'll see that I provided my name, full legal name, as well as my driver's license number. So that said, he would be able to pull that from that video. Probably had it written down, for all I know. But likewise, since I parked right next to him in my rental vehicle, he would be able to pull the plates off my new rental vehicle that I have too, right? Because I'm still driving that same rental vehicle, right? Because I typically rent for a very long period of time. I've been renting for the last few years now because I don't have a car of my own, and it's cheaper, believe it or not. I pay about $12,000 or so a year to be able to rent the vehicle for a year, and I don't have to take care of the maintenance or anything else. That's why if you go to the second trial on my website, I asserted that very principle with the judge, Luke Brown, right? And that's where they're probably getting the idea that I'm a sovereign citizen or whatever, because they think that you're required to have the motor vehicle inspected. It's like I was renting a rental vehicle at the time, just recently rented it. I think I only had it for a few weeks, to be honest with you, at that point in time, that particular one, because I recently exchanged it. And I did a rolling stop at a stop sign. I do believe that I briefly did stop, but it could be considered a rolling stop in front of the police officer and what have you. I didn't get pulled over right away, and what have you, so I figured he was going to let me go on it and what have you. And I also had the mentality while I was at the four-way, because a lot of police will wave you on anyway. It's like, all right, well, no harm, no foul kind of thing. But he pulled me over, and he told me about the stop sign and what have you. I didn't argue it or anything like that, because at that time I wasn't going to argue a traffic infraction. If he would have cited me for it, I would have went to court and I would have taken the plea offer and paid my fees, right? But this is where it all stems to where, because traffic infractions, what have you, for a long period of time have been under my skin as not being compliant with the law, especially if they have you lie in court. Going back to my court case back when I was a teenager and what have you, and in my early 20s, I got 3 citations within an 18th month period for speeding. I refused to lie, so I pled guilty, because that's how honest I am, to all 3 charges. And the last ticket was given on the 18th month, and the judge himself was virtually pleading with me, are you sure you want to plead guilty to this? I did it. I'm pleading guilty. I'm not going to lie. That would be perjury, right? So that said, my license was revoked and whatever. I dealt with everything at that point in time, but that was many, many years ago, right? So that's the whole concept with the first trial that I had, because I've never been to trial other than in Leroy. It started with Leroy, New York, where I was issued a pass on right traffic infraction when I hit a parked police car at the end of my driveway that was monitoring traffic, and I was issued a citation for pass on right, when it's like, well, if I was attempting to pass them on the right, I would have been in the bushes and hitting trees. I passed him on the left, not on the right, because he was parked on the right-hand side, and I was going around him, right? And I brushed up against his back end, right? Minor issue away, but nevertheless. So that's why I argued it in court, and I argued under the First Amendment, because they're trying to force me to lie. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to take a plea offer that forces me to lie, right? Wasn't matter if I was trying to get out of paying for damages or anything like that, because that was all handled by the insurance. I didn't want to lie in court. That was the argument. Whatever. Took it on the cheek. Kept going. Then trial 2, as I was indicating, pulled me over for the minor traffic infraction, and he cited me for the inspection on the rental vehicle, which I only had for a few weeks, right? That's the responsibility of the rental company to have the vehicle inspected. Most rental vehicles that you rent are not going to have an inspection sticker on them in New York State, because most of them don't have plates for New York State. The current one I am renting now has a inspection sticker for New York State on it. It has plates for New York State, right? And same with the vehicle I had at that point in time, but the inspection sticker on the vehicle at that point in time, because I am aware of things, said it was valid for at least another few months, right? And having a long-term rental with the company, I know that I would be the one that would take it in and have it inspected. Typically, I could change it out with the company and get a different vehicle and have them inspect it, because it is their responsibility. But I haven't been renting with them for so long, I know that I would have to contact them, have a work order submitted, take it to whatever place that it is, and I would get it inspected. And then they would complete it and what have you, and then everything would be hunky-dory, right? And no money out of my pocket, because the rental company is responsible for that. Even the police officer, when he issued me the citation, stated that exact principle. Take it to court, decline the plea offers, and I didn't even remember what happened, because it was 6 months after the fact that I mailed in the ticket not guilty, that they're suddenly coming after me. So I get the court clerk about it, right? And you can see the email exchange and what have you, in accordance to where I asserted the very principle that if you're going to have me come in, First Amendment, to have respect to persons to commit sin and everything else, all documented, right? Long prior to their trial number 3 and everything else, right? So that said, I was asserting that principle that it's not my responsibility. I even contacted the DA's office and what have you. The and left them a voicemail. Never got a response because they wanted me to plea out and pay them money. I'm not paying them money for something that's not my responsibility. Again, if it was a stop sign situation, I would have taken the plea offer and I would have paid the money, right? But I'm not going to lie, it's not my responsibility. The police officer himself stated clearly it's not my responsibility, and that have the rental company take care of it, right? So I declined the plea offers per the mail by not responding. Showed up to court because the second plea offer, when I was sent away, stated quite clearly that if you don't respond to this plea offer, then this is your trial date. I was like, all right, well, I'll go to trial, right? Showed up to trial. What I assumed was going to be a trial, got offered the plea offer again. I'm like, yeah, this is no bueno. No, not accepting it. Made a motion to dismiss on 2 grounds. 1, First Amendment immunity, and on 2, it's not my responsibility. Luke Brown wanted to proclaim that it was my responsibility, alienating me, pissing me off, in other words, when I know that it's not my responsibility. And here we have our feud with me in North Tonawanda, right? So I went to trial. Next time I did threaten Luke Brown that if he violates my rights, he can be removed from his position, because that's Penal Code 195.00. A lot of people don't think the judge is the ultimate authority. They are our servants, not the authority. They are there to be judged impartially in accordance to the law, right? They can't favor secular or anything like that. So it's like, all right. So I was dismissed when I got to the stand by Sean, right? The other judge at the time. I'm not sure if he's still the judge there or not, right? So again, based on that, I filed my, I submitted videos to TikTok and what have you, and got some consensus from, I got basically a lot of sovereign citizens that are actually what you would proclaim to be sovereign citizens, because they denounce their citizenship and do a lot of various things, and they proclaim their sovereignty under that level, which is their rights, right? They can do everything that they're doing as long as it's legal, right? And they're doing it as citizens, the ultimate authority of the United States of America, where the government gets their authority from us. So basically what they're saying is that I don't consent to the government, right? So that's their right to do it that way, and same with the state nationals. And with that, they provided me a lot of case law and everything else in regards to a lot of things. I got a copy of the United States Constitution, read through it thoroughly, especially with everything that happened with COVID and what have you. It's like, yeah, I'm going to get a little bit of information on this and see where, if they have any grounds for violating the rights of the people under the pretense of public health and safety, right? Nope, you can't find that in the United States Constitution. And with it being the supreme law of the land, them using the pretense of public health and safety and welfare and everything else isn't justification for them to violate your rights, right? Because your rights supersede their authority, right? But they want to act like they have that authority. They want to act like they have that consent from the people when they don't have the consent of the people, right? So I am, the people when it comes to New York State. So if I say you don't have my consent, that's all it takes to say that you don't have my consent. You don't have that authority. That's it. No bueno. It should stop at there, and they should dismiss in the interest of justice. So basically, when it came to the state nationals and the sovereign citizens, I more or less said, hold my beer. Let the church handle this one, right? Because they're suing the states, and they're trying to get rid of the police, and they're trying to get rid of the judges and everything else. And me, I see corruption, and I'll hold them accountable to their oath of office. But I'm also likewise obligated to do good to those that harm and persecute me, right? So that said, I can't do anything. I can't sue them under Title 42, Section 1983 or 1985. I can't file criminal charges or anything like that, because that would begin me going against my religious principles. A lot of aspects of that they're failing to acknowledge, because true Christianity hasn't been exercised for the last 1700 years, right? So they should, if they were respectable people, if they were accountable people, hold themselves accountable to the law, because Penal Code 195.00, official misconduct, if anybody, public servant, like sees, witnesses a other public servant doing something that is unlawful and violating the rights of the people, they should be pressing charges. They should be doing their job, right? But they don't. So that said, that's why this argument, right? Even a minor traffic infraction imposed on the church is blasphemy. It is illegal. It is a crime. It is a violation of their oath of office. It's a violation of the First Amendment. It's a violation of Article 1, Section 3 of the New York State Constitution. It's a violation of the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. And likewise, the application of those under the New York State statute of the Bill of Rights, because it's New York State law isn't law, it's a statute at best. Because again, if it violates the supreme law and the United States Constitution, it's automatically null and void. That's Marbury versus Madison, right? Cited in my videos on YouTube. And we have most people, again, the police are enforcing policy. They're not enforcing the law. They're acting like they're a corporation, and a parent corporation at that. But again, the municipalities are obligated to file a charter, obviously, to have their city. In that charter, they have that exact proclamation that they will adhere to the rights of the people, because if they don't, and if they get enough civil rights complaints, their charter gets revoked and there goes the city. No more municipality. Same with the DA's office. If you file enough, they get enough complaints within a certain period of time, I think it's a course of 2 years, then they can no longer practice law. So when they're trying to strong arm people into compliance, keep in mind that if you file a complaint against them, if you assert your rights with them, then they can lose their charter. If they lose the charter, there is no more city. There is no more city court. There is no more judge of that city court. There is no more police department of that city, right? But because people don't know that, and they won't tell them that, and they're assuming authority that they were never given, they allow the government to walk all over them. Me, on the other hand, I'm not going to assume or whatever, but I'll let them know quite clearly that you can threaten me, which is a violation of Title 18, Section 241, conspiracy against rights, which is illegal, especially with trying to remand me and deem me incompetent and what have you for asserting my rights, right? Because I couldn't know what the law is when my rights. But I don't have any rights unless they tell me I have rights, and a lawyer tells me I have rights. So it's like, yeah, that's no bueno situation. You are my servants. You are not my masters, right? You are my subordinates. That goes up to the governor of the state as well as the president of the United States. Same with the Supreme Court of both state and the United States, right? Same with any level executive branch, any level judicial branch, any level of Congress. They're all public servants with their oath of office to protect and defend the United States Constitution under Title 5, Section 3331 for federal employees. And then you have the oath of office for state employees, which states that they support the United States Constitution as well as the respective state constitutions, and it's a violation of their oath if they're not upholding the law, because the constitutions are the law. Anything made after it, penal code and what have you, is consolidated laws, which are, if they violate the rights of the people, they're not law. They're statutes, they're codes, and they're ordinances, right? So that it would include traffic infractions. They don't have that authority, but people assume that they do and concede to authority that they never were given. They're allowing the government to act like they're the parent. It doesn't matter if we're the states incorporated or anything else like that, or the municipalities incorporated, because they have their charter, and the charter all states that they have to protect the rights of the people. Even the United States of America, United States as incorporated, has that charter, right? So you can go up against any public servant. So even though I can't sue the state directly without their consent, if they're suing the people without our consent, we can sue the public servants in the municipality without their consent for violating their rights. That's again Title 42, Section 1983 and 1985, right? So people not, again, knowing their rights, knowing the law, they allow the courts to abuse them. So I'm, again, on my way to North Tonawanda to assert that very principle, because in trial number 3, they deemed me incompetent when I asserted my rights, and you can watch the videos on my website as well as on YouTube and what have you. And you can validate that I've been a Messianic Jew for a number of years. I'm not doing this to just simply get out of a traffic infraction. It's something that I do, right? It's my lifestyle, and they're prohibiting my lifestyle. They're prohibiting me from being a Jew, right? On a biblical scale, being adherent to Yahweh and His 10 Commandments. They want to assume that they are deities. They're alienating my unalienable rights, assuming that they have the rights that supersede mine. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic, and they have an oath of office for a reason to uphold the constitutional republic, not their feelings. Shalom.